Hi guys, how you doing? So welcome to another Filmmaking Times show, and I'm here together with my brother Lucas. Here.
Hi everyone.
And today, like the title says, we're going to be talking all about basically how to jumpstart your career as a filmmaker. But as always, before we kind of start the show, I'm going to let all the people join us. And I wanted to just find out where you guys are right now. So just let us know in the comments if you're, basically what city or place where you're at right now. What time is it? And also, if you have any questions before we start the show, I can always take some questions. Let me see actually up here who's joining us. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, as always, we're on Facebook and on YouTube. Let me go here to YouTube actually. And my brother Lucas is going to be taking basically your questions. He's going to try to answer them. And the more interesting questions or questions that he can answer, he's going to pass them on to me. So I can talk to you guys this way. This way it almost feels like we're directly talking, right? That's the cool thing about doing the live shows. All right, let me see here. Make sure everything's good on Facebook. Now, for those of you who are wondering, kind of, I guess what like what I mean by like when I by the title of the show, how to jumpstart or how to basically become a pro filmmaker is basically becoming a filmmaker that where you actually are living off of making films. You're not, because there's a lot of filmmakers who out there who are very talented, but they're struggling and they can't. They don't, they basically most of the time they'll have like a day job supporting their filmmaking. It almost seems like the filmmaking is a hobby. So yeah, so if I wanted to kind of talk about, I guess, how to get your foot in the door of the industry, start making money, and really living and doing what it is that you like doing, which is filmmaking. And it could be a lot of different things. Doesn't have to be just making films itself or making films in Hollywood, but it could be making little indie films, music videos, maybe some YouTube content videos, that kind of stuff. All right, let's see, Lucas, who's joining us over there? Maybe you can.
Australia. So good. Thank you for joining us again from Australia.
Oh.
I know it's so early there. Morocco, all over Europe, United States. Where else? Dubai. So
Dubai. Oh.
Saskatchewan, Canada. Yeah, a lot of places.
Good to see that. Yeah, I see. Actually, yeah, I forgot to say, Happy Easter to those of you who are celebrating. Today is today's what, Easter Sunday, right?
Right. Yeah.
I'm horrible
Yeah,
myself.
right.
I should be celebrating, but I'm like too busy working. So yeah, don't doesn't feel as festive today for me.
Okay. I was able to have the traditional Polish breakfast. We always have big breakfast on Easter Sunday and Monday.
Yeah.
In Poland, people also have a day off on Monday.
Oh, okay.
They don't on Friday. Many Western countries, Christian countries, like on Friday, Good Friday, it's a day off. But in Poland, it's not. But on Monday, it's a day off, and also a day that you get wet. Doesn't matter whether it's rainy or not, because there's this custom of pouring water on people, like as a blessing, or I don't know, it's supposed to bring good luck, I guess.
Oh, okay.
But so it's a big game, and mostly, especially young people, young guys, pouring water at the girls, right? It's a popular game. So.
Oh yeah, now I remember
always,
that. I remember we used to run
Schmingos,
around and chase the girls
yeah, Schmingos,
with
Bingos.
with the little water guns, right?
Yeah. So I'm sure I'm going to get a bit wet tomorrow. Although I live in Canada now, so it's nothing like what takes place in Poland.
I see we have people joining us from here. Where is it? From Poland, actually. I think it's like right after you mentioned Poland or the Polish traditions. From Morocco, Algeria, Hungary, where is it? India, Finland. I see Jamaica, Brazil. Even Philippines, and I'm getting a happy Easter from Philippines. I see here.
Hello from cornfields. Cornfields, I'm not sure where that is, but I guess Midwest, the United States. Um,
All right. So anyway,
so
like today's show says, like I said, we're want to talk about 5 ways of becoming a pro filmmaker. And what I mean by that is basically how to jumpstart your career, how to actually, not so much on the technical side, but what are the things that you can do so you can actually start, making money and living off of filmmaking versus having a day job that supports your filmmaking more, which is more like a hobby. And that's because a lot of people are asking me that. There's a lot of people out there who are very talented people, but they just can't make that transition from quitting their day job so that they can do filmmaking full time. And I'll kind of maybe just quickly mention the 5 points, and they might seem very simple, but once we kind of go over them and start elaborating on them, I think then you guys will get a better idea of what we mean by these. So the 5 basically ways that I think. Now these are just 5 ways that I think are really helpful. There's obviously many others that you can follow. The one thing I would say that I learned when just working in the industry and meeting all the different people who you would say made it in the filmmaking industry is that pretty much every person that you meet seems like they all got their start in the industry a completely different way. They basically somehow ended up a filmmaker, but they started in completely different places. So the 5 ways of becoming a filmmaker is first, just make a film. Right? Seems pretty obvious. Again, we're going to elaborate on all these points. Second is market yourself. Another one will be write a script. Then another one will be become an expert at something. And again, I'll elaborate what I mean by that. And then the last point will be help other filmmakers. Also another thing I wanted to clarify is that what I mean by these basically 5 points is that you could be just concentrating all your time and strength and talent on just one of these things, and this could be your you could say your door into the filmmaking industry. It doesn't mean that you have to do all of them. Now, obviously, the more you do, the bigger the chances are, right? Now, Lucas, I don't know if you want to throw in something to that.
Sorry, just looking at the comment. Can you repeat the last sentence?
Like if you want to add something to these. I mean, this is kind of like
the
a
points?
list.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to elaborate more or less on this approach that I'm talking about.
Yeah, we'll go point by point. Because you prepared the list and I looked at it and it wasn't clear to me what you meant. So, but now I know. So we'll go point by point, explain it. But it's just 5 ways of doing it, and there are that's not just there are so many ways you can find a way to become a pro. So obviously this is not an exhaustive list, and then obviously things also evolve, change, technology changes, the film industry changes. So it's a topic that it's constantly changing, and so it will give you some ideas. I think cover the main ways that we've seen people succeed and become pros, but there are other ways for sure.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a good point that things change, right? Technology changes, and the filmmaking industry changes itself. So definitely there's, like I said, the way you're going to approach some of these points, for example, I'm going to mention is also actually I want to talk about how it kind of changed over the years. So let's maybe first talk about the first one, the most obvious, make a film, right? If let's say you have no other skills whatsoever. Let's say you have no social skills. You can't, you're horrible in front of cameras. You're horrible, like as a filmmaker, you kind of, it's always beneficial to be able to go in front of cameras, in front of people, talk about the work you do and all that stuff. But let's say you're not good at any of those things, but you want to be a filmmaker. I mean, the most obvious is to make a film, right? And not only that, but make a good film, which, that's a whole other topic on its own. I would say just like in general, I would say to make a good film doesn't necessarily mean a film that, that like your friends look at and say, oh, I think it's good. It just simply means, or also that, any filmmaker can look at it and say, okay, this was professionally made, but also film that's original, that stands out, right? And a lot of it, I think, when it comes to that is, whether it's the topics that you choose for your films or the way you make the film, the kind of images and, and sounds and stuff that you include in the film. I mean, the most obvious is, and that's how a lot of actually indie filmmakers got their start, is do something like this really niche genre. A lot of it, especially actually as a kind of horror films, is because if you do something like that, especially like really out there with, let's say, it's very violent. I don't know, maybe the language or maybe sexual, something like that. That's like really, basically, it's you're going for the shock value. If you do a film like that, it might not necessarily mean that a lot of other people are going to agree with you that yes, your film is good, right? But then again, it's their opinion. At the end of the day, it's going to get you attention, right? Especially if you go really out there and you create a lot of controversy. So that's I would say one way of doing it. But I mean, me as a filmmaker, I always look at it's kind of trying to find that balance of I don't want to do something like just for the marketing basically and just to basically get the word out about my film. I also want to work on a film that I care about and kind of telling the stories and things that I guess morally agree to. So that really just comes down to now there's to your I would say preference, but there's definitely filmmakers out there who kind of said whatever, I'm gonna put all of that aside. I'm just gonna do the most out there crazy film just to get the attention and they did, and it was a perfect way to jumpstart their career. Because at the end of the day, if you have a film that draws an audience or draws a lot of attention because of controversy or because it's really original or really just basically good, as I would say, majority of an audience would agree that it's just a good film worth seeing. Once you have produced something like that as a filmmaker and your name is on there, like I said, even if you have no other skills whatsoever, you're most likely it's nothing's guaranteed in this life, but most likely that's going to jumpstart your career. And the reason is because other filmmakers or other people who maybe see a way of monetizing what you just did, they're going to contact you and they're going to most likely put up money for your next film and things like that. So that's the way I would say is that it seems very obvious, but how you do this, I mean, there's many different ways. I don't know. Do you agree with me or?
Yeah, it's the most direct way, and it is the best way. And sort of sometimes people say, you have to, especially in the past, people would tell you you have to be patient, and you have to kind of climb the ladder, earn your, earn it, right, and
Yeah.
so on, and have to be assistant, get coffee, and slowly, basically, go up in the industry. But now there's the opportunity, even if you have no experience, know nothing about filmmaking, like, well, obviously you should know something, but really, no experience to put on your resume, if you can find a way to make a movie that can just make you a pro right away. And usually the best way, we'll get to that, I guess. I think it's point number 3 for you, but usually, because you need some leverage to make a film happen, right? Obviously, it's difficult to make a project happen, and usually the best leverage is if you write a good script, because in a way that's also like
that's thing, but
it's the biggest shortage of having good stories, good script. That's the most difficult probably.
But actually, I wanted to bring out. So sorry for interrupting you, but I actually wanted to just say one little thing that it's not necessarily always having a good script. Like there's been many filmmakers who've started a career and they had pretty bad scripts, but they had just really like I said, the images, or there was actually some filmmakers that didn't even make any films per se. I mean, they were they were making, telling stories visually, but it was through music videos, for example, and they done really crazy music videos that were pretty much done without a script. But again, it was so controversial, so out there, or they had some really cool original imagery. That's what got the people in the industry, people especially with money who are willing to invest in their next project, got them interested and wanting to work with them. But if you're talking about in terms of making a traditional film, I think the script is important, right? Also, that's one of the big things that's changed a lot over the years. Like you were mentioning, Lucas, like when it comes to technology, right? Back in the day, even in the 90s or like 80s, 70s, to make a film, your first film, and get your foot in the industry that way, was much more difficult than it is today. It's just because technology was, you really had to shoot on film. It was expensive. The cameras were expensive. Also, usually you required really powerful lighting. So then the whole setup, everything was more complicated. These days, because of technology, I mean, you can pretty much shoot without lights, which I wouldn't advise, but you can. Getting a camera that produces nice cinematic images is so affordable now. I mean, you can buy used, like the little camera that I still use sometimes, the Sony NEX. cameras or A6000, and you can buy those for $100,000. Even used ones, you can get them for a few $100 to $300, and so it's definitely a lot more affordable these days. And also editing it, anybody pretty much, or most people now have a computer, so they can quickly edit their piece, their music video, film, whatever it is, on their computer. So it's because of that, it's become a lot more attainable now. Because of that, I also think back in the day, if you actually managed to get the equipment and basically shoot the film on film and edit it on film, all that stuff, you had a lot less competition. Because why? Because there was less people, right? Well, now I think it's easier to make a film, but it's also harder for your film to just get noticed. So that's what I was saying, is just making a film is not enough. You have to have something that stands out, that's original. Like I said, sometimes you could just be the shock value or whatever, but you have to somehow stand out, from the crowd. And now, because seems like everybody is making films and showing them online on all these various platforms, that's why I think it's just that much harder to stand out. Right?
Yeah, I agree. Now, maybe as a follow-up to this, how important do you think, or is it, so if this is a plan, somebody wants to make a movie to become a pro, should they go for a short film, feature film? Maybe we can just talk about maybe, the advantages.
I think personally, I don't think it matters, but I don't know, maybe you differ. Maybe your opinion differs. Also, you guys, let us know in the comments. Like, maybe some of you are watching you've had different experiences, right? So let us know.
I think so the purpose is for you to just become start earning money as a filmmaker, and you basically want to show off your skills, right? Then choose a project that again has basically so maybe just choose a project that will allow you to show off your skills. So whether it's editing or camera work, cinematography, and so that's what you were saying, right? And then I guess lengthwise, then I guess it doesn't matter that much. I mean, if you can show off you can show off your skills in 10 minutes. Now, if you're a storyteller, as a script and so on, you probably want a feature film to show off, because it's much different. Storytelling is much different in a short film than a feature, right? Like the story flows, the ups and downs are different, right? The beats are different. So if you want to become, if you want to sell your scripts, right, for money, and then I think it would be better to do a feature film. Otherwise, I think for everybody else, other professionals, right, I think it's better to just go for a short film, because, and then why make a short film? Why make a feature film? Well, short film is you won't make money on short film, like on its own, unless like a series really generate other content from that. But otherwise, you're not going to make money on a short film. But perfect thing about short films is that to get your name out and to show off your skills. Feature films, you should do it if you actually want to make money on it, right? Because it's going to be much easier to sell it, and you can actually monetize it. But obviously, it's more difficult to produce and.
Well, I guess I think I know what you're going for. I mean, the difference is this: if you want to, let's say you yourself are, just want to be a filmmaker, pure artist, you don't want to worry about money, right? But you want to somehow make a living out of it, then the best way is probably just make anything to show off your talent, and also get like I said, an audience watching you. That will most likely lead to somebody with money coming in, investing into your next project, and then later on, basically, you'll be making commercial projects and making money from it, but you don't have to worry about it. You'll have other people taking care of it, like let's say producing it, right, financing your films. But if you also want to be, like, let's say, complete, captain of your ship and run your own production company, be producing your films, be the one monetizing your work, then I would say, because producing a film, especially a feature film, I mean, aside from making it just good artistically, it's a whole other, I mean, it's like running a business that's kind of like, crazy, like running like on the back of a pickup truck, and you're just driving down the road, and at any moment it could skid off the road, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong with it, and all these things, and planning wise, but also money wise, arranging all that stuff. So those are things that some people are just not good at, and that's where sometimes if you feel like that's not where your skill set is, you're a good artist, but you're not good at running a business like that, like producing a film, you're probably better off not taking a big project like that, yourself. Just wait for other people who are good at that join you and kind of guide you in that way. Because if you make a feature film yourself, yeah, you can directly right away from that film make money. Short film, you're probably not going to make money from that short film, but it will lead you to getting to work on feature films that other people produce. Hopefully that's clear. And I think is that what you meant, Lucas?
Yeah. For money wise, yeah, you want to make a feature film, but if you want to just launch your career as a professional, then it makes sense to do. For most people, I think it makes sense to just go with short films, not really worry about feature films. But I think just two exceptions might be as a script writer and probably director, because again, it's much different between short film and feature film, right?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, yeah, so that's the first point. Second point is the marketing yourself. So what do I mean by marketing yourself? And again, it's very broad and it's changed a lot over the years. Before, like back in the day, it was as a filmmaker, really to market yourself, it just simply meant you had to have something to show, like probably produce a film or maybe a music video and get that, seen by an audience, get the audience talking about it. These days, I mean, yeah, it's probably the best way, again, is make a film and then show off, or some kind of work that shows off your talents. Although, and I used to think that way for many years until I think only like a few months ago I started changing my opinion on that, and I kind of thinking that now, I mean, I've seen, I don't want to mention any names, but I've seen some filmmakers that, to be honest, I don't know if they're good filmmakers because they haven't done any films per se or any film work that shows off their creative talent. But you know what? These are people who are really good at marketing themselves, especially using online social media. Like we're here doing this show on YouTube and on Facebook, but whether you're using these platforms or whether you're using any other platform, there's ways of doing basically things where you can pretty much build an audience. That's what I mean by marketing yourself. Build an audience, and you can do it many different ways, not necessarily by making films. You could be doing little like vlogging videos or some music videos or some whatever, maybe tutorials or different ways. But once you build that audience and you have a set of people basically following you and watching you and kind of I guess growing to like you as a person, I would say first, then it's going to be a lot easier for you to actually then make a film that's profitable and you can actually get paid. And whether it's asking that audience to, I guess, to join you maybe through crowdsourcing and donate money that way, or just getting, let's say, you might even have other filmmakers approaching you because you have that audience already, and approaching you to basically wanting to work with you because they know that you're going to bring a certain number of of people watching it, the recognition and things like that. And that's what I'm saying, that I've seen this, that you don't necessarily anymore have to make a film to jumpstart your career as a filmmaker, because again, there's some people, just look it up online and you'll find these people who haven't really done anything as a filmmaker, haven't produced or directed or shot anything, but other than like just doing really intriguing posts on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, like vlogging videos, things like that, and they managed to build such an audience that then they ended up getting into filmmaking that way, because then, like I said, a lot of other people who are looking for that audience, basically contacted them, wanting to work with them, and like I said, it's at least the people that I've been following, we'll see with time, can they actually now deliver, something good as a filmmaker. But I mean, one thing they've already delivered is the marketability of it, right? They know that they can sell a certain number of, or somehow monetize this film that they're going to be working on.
So let me just jump in. Maybe you've got like 3 points. Hopefully I won't forget. But I'm about to forget. In terms of, hold on. Sorry. Yeah, kind of my mind went blank. Trying to remember all 3 points, and now I remember the last two, and I forgot. Anyway, so you were saying about how some people. Okay, so let's not talk about, say, like give any names of people who call themselves filmmakers and so on. But in terms of marketing, I mean, making films hasn't been difficult for a while, and now it's much easier, right?
Yeah.
In terms of just making the film happen. Well, the most difficult part, that's I think since there have been films around, is bringing people to the cinema or in front of the TVs to get to watch this content. And so nowadays it's the same. So basically that's why people who are not even in filmmakers at all, but who have a presence, like as you were saying, online and so on, or any, let's say, athletes, or anybody really who can be on-camera talent, right? Because we're just talking in this situation about on-camera talent. I mean,
well, not always. I mean, like there's been people who were approached, like to direct or help produce a certain project, or sometimes just purely market, but they were somehow, involved in the filmmaking process, right? Or sometimes, in front of the camera. Which again, I mean, if you're an actor, you are a filmmaker, right? There's some way you're involved in filmmaking, and I would say you're a pro filmmaker if you're, making money from it. So that's what I mean, is that there's people like that who've gotten their career, and even though they've never done themselves any filmmaking work, what I mean by that again is maybe acting in a film or producing or directing, but they built such an audience, or they've been basically just been really good at marketing, right? They know how to get I don't know, like again, something that gets controversial or that catches people's attention. They know how to create that topic, or again, they're just good at marketing, and because of that, they got their foot in the door. And back in the day, at marketing, I would also say, we usually required a big financial institution or some newspaper or something, television station, backing your effort. Well, now because of internet, anybody can be a master at marketing, and you see that happening, right? There's always new people coming up, and they get, like on YouTube alone, I mean, there's so many people that are kids sometimes. I look at them and they manage within 2 or 3 months get a few 100,000 people following them and getting millions of views and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree, but I think if you are online talent, and then you can be far away from films, but then eventually, just because you have the exposure, you'll be able to be in films and so on, right? But I think it's I can see it happening for directors, and but it's more difficult to do that if you are behind the scenes, and then you just build up without making films. You just build up somehow, following online, doing something related, and then just jump in. And you want to be in films, but not in front of the camera. I think it's kind of more difficult, because at the end, I mean, the biggest pool for people to come see a movie is still people who are going to be on the screen. Yes, there are some star directors. People will come out, but very few, and really, the faces on camera. And so again, I think that's like how it is in cinema, right, in the film industry. So I think it's even online, if you're trying to get people to watch stuff, it's and you're trying to go beyond your your audience, right? Then it's difficult if you are behind the scenes guy. The other thing is, you're talking about like filmmakers online and so on, like the term filmmaker. So I mean, right now, many YouTubers call themselves filmmakers, and then I'm totally okay with it. But I mean, it's the word has changed its meaning, and people are basically, I guess, storytellers. They call themselves filmmakers. Sounds cool, and now we make videos and we call them films and so on. And that's another thing. One of the comments here in the discussion here, people were saying, oh, it's ironic that we call it films, but how many people still shoot on film, right? Not many. So it's mostly digital, the videos that we shoot and so on, but we call it films because that's basically stories, right? Storytelling, and just a side point, but
and that's the whole thing. Also, definition, like what is filmmaking? Like when I say jumpstart your career as a filmmaker, that can mean many different things to different people. Like some people, they don't necessarily want to make films in Hollywood. They're just thinking of making, let's say, YouTube videos, right? Now, to me, a filmmaker, whether you're making YouTube videos or you're making them for big Hollywood, distribution and all that stuff, going in cinemas, or if you're doing it for little indie films, it's just going to be shown on some local, theater. To me, it doesn't matter where it's displayed, the final work, but to me as a filmmaker, I mean, somebody who's telling visually stories, and is also like telling it artistically, not so much, like somebody who's vlogging. To me, and I had discussions actually about this with a few friends of mine, to me, I don't consider them filmmakers. There might be great storytellers, but doing a vlogging video is not, to me, is not, because it doesn't artistically require much, like when it comes to camera work and that kind of thing. They might be really good at editing, but a lot of the times, I mean, vlogging is you're going to be filming yourself, and you might intercut some nice B-roll. But again, to me, like it's not enough of a thought and skill put into it, especially when you're filming yourself and you're looking at the camera. That's again, I wouldn't consider that filmmaking. But again, there might be amazing storytellers, as in the things that they decide to show and not show and how they show it. Like basically through editing process, might be really good, might be interesting. I mean, I follow certain vloggers that just, but a lot of it is just because I find their life interesting. It's like there's like, for example, this couple that I follow who's sailing around the world, and it's just, I've always been interested in sailing. I always, kind of was thinking one day maybe I'll go sailing. And so that's the reason why I watch it. I watch it to kind of almost feels like I'm participating in their lifestyle, but I don't watch it because and admire it because I think there's some amazing filmmaking skills behind it. Whereas, you watch like a traditional film, whether it's on Netflix now or in a cinema, and you just see the creative process that was put into it, like the way the sets were built and stuff. That's what I consider filmmaking. But again, your opinion might differ. Anyway, so let's move on to the next point. So point number 3 I put in here is write a script. And again, if you know nothing else, if you don't know how to operate a camera, how to edit anything, like I said, you don't know anything about making a film per se, like actually shooting it and all that stuff, or you don't know anything about marketing and all that stuff, but you can write a good script. That is, I would say, and again, this list that I created is not in the, or like in the order or basically of importance or what's better. It's just there's different ways of getting your foot in the industry, and I think writing a script is one that seems to have been always around, and it still is, and it hasn't changed much actually, even with technology. Like back in the day, many directors who were, like I said, turned out to be very talented filmmakers, like visually and the way they operate the camera. They actually got their start by writing scripts. They had nothing to do with the camera, and it's basically the way that they would do it is, and there's actually some interesting book. There's one book which I did a video about it. I don't know, Lucas, if you remember the title of it. It was something like, it was like it's a book about where the writer interviewed all these famous directors.
Yeah, let me just look it up. Yeah,
okay.
You can keep talking. I'll look it up. Yeah.
Yeah, and if anything, we'll post a link to that book if you guys were interested in it afterwards. But anyways, a really good book, with like just for inspirational itself, but also for ideas on how you can jumpstart your career. You should probably read it. But one thing you'll notice in that book is not all of them, but pretty much most of the directors there, it got their way somehow because they had a good script. Whether they wrote the script or whether they bought the rights to a really good script, and then they, like I said, got to make their film. And even when you think about, like, for example, like Sylvester Stallone, he was a guy who's, again, maybe, many people don't consider him amazing scriptwriter, but he wrote something that touched the nerve, right? And it was basically, he was a filmmaker who did some, even adult films from what I heard, and some really weird, like some low kind of quality indie shorts and commercials, and he was struggling. He was a struggling actor, but he was determined to be a filmmaker, and he wrote a script called Rocky about, a boxer, down under kind of guy who's gonna make his way to the top. And he went around, a lot of people loved that script even though they didn't like him, and he actually got to the point where, again, I don't remember what the amount of money was, but different producers actually offered him money to basically buy the script plus extra money for him to walk away and not be involved in the film. But he stuck to his guns and said, no, I'm gonna make this film, but I'm gonna be the main actor in it. And see, that's what I'm saying. He was a determined filmmaker. He wanted to be mainly an actor, and since then he's gone on to actually produce and direct films. But he was so determined, and it was all because he had a good script. He had a script that basically caught people's attention. And so at the end of the day, even though all these producers and people with money basically were, they were interested in the script, but they weren't interested in him, eventually they were like, all right, okay, we'll make the film with you. And that's all it took, and it was a good script. I mean, say whatever you want about Rocky, especially now, it's an outdated movie, you could say. It might seem cheesy in a lot of aspects, but it was, for the time, it was a really good script. And that's how a lot of filmmakers got their start, right? Just having that interesting, good script that also, like I said, good script is kind of like filmmaking. There's a lot of different things that can make it good. Like when I was talking about making a film, whether it's something out there or controversial, or something a topic that is, is something that people are interested in right now, and is going to get a lot of attention. So I would say, if you know nothing else and you don't know any technical skills about filmmaking, if you can sit down and write a good script or a good story, and then start showing it around to people, chances are one way or another you're gonna, it's gonna, like I said, if you have a good script, and you're gonna see that very quickly because people are gonna resonate to that script, sooner or later you're gonna get to work on that, whether it's that film or another film. Like somebody like Quentin Tarantino, he also wanted to make films, but he was a guy working at a video store, but he was also, he had interesting stories, so he started writing scripts, and before he actually got to make his first film, he ended up just selling a few of his scripts. But that's how he, it was essential in a way for him to get to make his first film, because without him selling those scripts, he would have never met the people that he met in the industry that later on helped him, get his first film made. So that's kind of what I mean by writing a script. I don't know if you want to go to the next point, Lucas.
Yeah, because people are asking whether they're doing do video reviews today, and that's the plan. So we don't have much time. So
we'll get to it. Don't worry. Yeah, we'll get to it. But I don't know. Do you want to add something to that point? Writing the script.
I think I think you covered it well. As I said earlier when we were talking about the first point, that that's the scripts are what's in shortest supply or quality scripts, right?
Yeah.
So, and it seems to be something that people have hardest time to learning, and so maybe it's the most difficult crusher, or the rarest craft. And if you have good story, if you can write good scripts, then you'll do well, and you can very quickly launch your career. You're referring to this book. I shared a link, but it's basically 20 ways to 20 film directors got their start. So
yeah.
Some of many if you hear many cases where, especially before, right? When you had to there was really the industry, well guarded industry, and you had to was really difficult to get in. Then the scripts were by far the most common way for a director to break in.
Yeah.
All right, so let's. I think.
All right, so next point is becoming an expert at something, and and when I say something, I literally mean anything, because.
Sorry, but you mean anything like not even related to filmmaking, or not related to filmmaking?
No. Even if you're an expert at something that's not necessarily like directly related to filmmaking. And an example of that, there's actually a police officer, a retired police officer, in I believe he was from Toronto, Canada, who was also in his spare time, I guess he was racing cars, doing things like that, and because he had ended up building also a collection of some nice cars, but they also became really good as a stunt driver and stuff. He ended up basically he was knew how to drive cars really well, and he could do some crazy things with it. And so one thing led to another, and somebody contacted him that they were shooting a film, they needed somebody like this with a car, blah blah. And then turns out that he told them, well, I also know how to operate these vehicles in a seemingly dangerous way, but that's under full control. And so basically got his jump start like that in filmmaking, and became actually grew a company. I forgot now the name of the company, but he grew a big company out of it. There's another guy that I personally met, also in Toronto, Canada, who loved guns, was just collecting guns, whether it was replica guns, historic guns, or real guns. He was collecting them, and eventually he came up with a way, because there was some old gun that they wanted to use on a film. It was like a World War II film where they wanted to shoot this, and the only thing was you either could find the real gun, the historical basically gun, or the replicas, but the replicas couldn't shoot basically the blanks. The real ones also couldn't shoot the blanks in a full auto mode. They could only shoot it basically one blank would basically get stuck because it was an actual machine gun. And in case you don't know, blanks usually don't have enough gunpowder, or because there's no actual bullet in the projectile, there's not enough of a kickback when it comes to gases to recycle and basically go into full auto mode. Anyways, long story short, this guy converted or created a way so that you could fire blanks fully auto on this old gun. Got this job on this film, then word got around that he's really good and handy with the stuff, and he again ended up becoming like this go-to guy if you wanted to get firearms for your film, especially in Toronto area. And I've heard similar stories of people like that in Los Angeles and things like that. There's one guy that I've worked with, that me and Lucas, both of us worked with on, which is his name is Young Lee. You remember him, right, Lucas? He's now big shot working in I believe he's still in the UK. And he was, like I said, I met him. Actually, I met him at a YouTube meetup, but he was kind of like at that point starting. He was interested in filmmaking, but really the way he got his start in filmmaking is he was interested in, doing like martial arts and some cool moves and things like that. Eventually, he wanted to show that to an audience and started doing little videos on YouTube. And again, long story short, I, met him and I was like, hey, at first, I mean, I was not interested in his filmmaking skills at all because I thought that he didn't have any. I literally was just like, okay, you know how to do some cool martial arts, staging, that kind of action stuff. I want to do a video like that. Let's cooperate. And we worked on a little film like that for YouTube. And then later on, he actually worked on a little short film on his own, and that blew up all over the internet, got him a lot of recognition. And I'll tell you even that his technical skills as a filmmaker at the beginning, and I always tell this to everybody, like when I tell a story about young Lee, is that because he didn't come from a traditional background of filmmaking, and because he didn't have this traditional basically filmmaking like idea stuck in his head, because he wasn't didn't go to film school or anything like that, he literally had no rules. He kind of, you could say, broke all the rules of filmmaking, but he happened to break all the right ones, meaning he ended up creating content that was very original. And it was original because of just part of it the way it was shot, but a lot of it was actually the way he edited. He edited things so weirdly. Like I remember for one project in particular, the one that like got a lot of recognition for him, when he was showing me the raw footage, asking for my opinion. I remember I looked at it and I thought, I don't think there's anything good you can do with it. But I almost didn't want to say it to him like straight out because I wanted to be the good friend. But then I just told him, yeah, no, just keep working with it. And then I remember later on, he showed me what he ended up editing with that stuff, and it was edited in such a way that like it blew my mind. I completely didn't even think of editing and that footage in such a way, and it's because I'm come more from a traditional filmmaking kind of background where I learned certain techniques for filmmaking, that have been used through many films and stuff. So I wasn't even thinking in such a original out there way. And anyway, so that actually benefited him. I think, but it all started because he had one skill that he was really good at, and that's how he got his foot in the door. And again, long story short, he's working, he's since been working on some, like big Hollywood films like Pacific Rim and stuff like that. He's working, I believe, now with on his second film, I think, with Jackie Chan. He's doing some really cool stuff. He's doing action design. So again, he's just one of many examples of people who knew nothing about filmmaking, but they were good at something, had a skill, for doing something. And actually that can maybe, might be a good transition into showing some of these video submissions that we got, because one submission that we got is from, here, let me look at the names so I don't butcher the names again. It's from Ron Hughes. Yeah.
What about the fifth point? Are we going to go back to it?
Yeah, we'll go over the fifth point. I just want to show this. So this is a submission from Ron Hughes, or Hodges, sorry, and it's basically, this is a behind-the-scenes video. He says a dolly crane that he built in his garage. It's extremely versatile, and it basically, it's the cool thing about it is it's like a crane but with a dolly attached to it. So it allows you to crane while dolly basically left and right at the same time. It's very solid, at least that's how it looks like in the video. And the fact that he built this in his garage, and in the video here I'm going to show you guys, he's literally operating it with his family and friends. And that's the cool thing about it, is that it's, like I said, it's, he's got a skill that maybe, I don't know, maybe he's good at filmmaking, but maybe it's just purely that he's, let me see here. Maybe it's just that he's, really good at building things with his hands. But either way, this is what he ended up building, and it's, like I said, this is, believe this is his first version that he built. So this is like this crane, because I remember he was contacting me for a while and kind of showing some of the work, and I was really impressed with some of the stuff he built. But now this latest creation, as you can see here, he's got this dolly that kind of slides in onto these rails, and it's cool because it doesn't. It's like a dolly that's not going to fly off because it has wheels underneath it that, apply pressure. It also allows them to, basically it's like a hi-hat, so you can apply any tripod head to it directly, or this kind of a crane that he built. And then you can apply the tripod head with a ball head at the end of that crane. And it's, again, he's a guy who's, and again, I don't know much about, about him and what other skills he might have, up his sleeve, but one thing you can deny is him building stuff out of metal and just designing and this construction. Basically, his ideas is he's a talented guy, and that I can guarantee you almost it's a way for him to get his foot in the door of the industry, because somebody out there is going to see it and they're going to be like, okay, we need this kind of a tool, or we need maybe something like it. Can you build something similar? He's going to build it. He's going to get to work with those filmmakers, and he's going to get to collaborate, right? And at the end of the day, it's also like just I would say networking is very important. Whether you go to film school or whether you're networking because again you just have some skill that the filmmakers need, maybe like a skill that's in front of camera that you show off, or whether it's a skill like behind the scenes, like here you see, where he's built this really cool filmmaking tool, and you can kind of see what he's able to do with this. And I think it's a again any skill literally at the end of the day, whether you said like some of the people that I mentioned, you're good at cars, driving cars, tuning cars, or something with weapons or building camera gear, or you're really good at singing or dancing. Again, somebody might need those skills in a music video or a film, and that's your way, kind of your foot in the door. You can start making money, but you can also right away start networking with people that way. Other filmmakers, other producers, or people who can even finance your future project. So. I think it's and that's why I wanted to show you guys this video, the submission, is because I think it's really interesting to see also, just see what you can do these days in a garage. Now I'm not gonna say it's easy, because I've tried back in the day when I was starting out myself and I had no money. Tried building some cranes and dollies myself, and it is a lot harder than you think. So what he's built up here, I mean, it's just the way it's machined and everything, and the fact that it produces these super smooth shots is, I'm gonna, again, give my props to him. He's definitely pulled it off, and the fact also that, like he says for this video particularly, is that this is all was set up and operated, using basically or with his family, right? So that was the cool thing, is that it doesn't even require any. Like somebody who has experience operating this gear. So he's definitely produced something cool. So that's what I'm saying, is having any skill, something that you're really good at, like you become an expert, and then if you can, you'll most likely be going to be able to tie in that skill into filmmaking, because again, there's so many films being made these days where probably somebody's going to need that skill, and that's your foot in the door, right? Because at the end of the day, it's networking with people. If you know the right people, people who are, like, say, help you make the film, directors, cinematographers, actors, but also people who can help you finance the film. If it's knowing those people, if you know those people, then getting a film, made is that much easier. It's still hard, and especially making a good film, but yeah, that's one way. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the last point, which is help other filmmakers, and that kind of again ties into the whole idea of networking, and what I mean by that is, like, let's say you're somebody who knows nothing. You have no skills, but you want to work on films. Well, help other filmmakers, like literally whatever it is that they need. So find out, the local production company where you are at, or drive somewhere where somebody is making a film, or contact people. There's a lot of resources online these days where you can, there's a lot of people actually submitting for jobs that are non-paying. They can't afford it, but they just need somebody to help them with a certain aspect of filmmaking. And let's say if you have no skill, probably you can just provide basically just your help as a production assistant. Just simply means somebody who's willing to do anything and learn anything. It might start with you, getting coffees for everybody on set, or tying up the cable and stuff. But as humble as that seems, if you use that opportunity to be there on set, right, do those things that maybe are not really the things that you want to do, but just so you can actually spend your time on set doing it, then the great thing about that is that you get to make, in the meantime, right, take the opportunity to talk to the filmmakers there, or find out, without disturbing, I guess, the director or the cinematographer too much, talk to them and see what is it that they're doing, why are they setting up the camera here and things like that. And I myself, as a director, have worked with a lot of production assistants that just contacted me out of the blue, and were like, hey, we want to help you in any way we can, and we want to learn by working with you. And it was, I can't always do that, not on every project, especially a project where I'm not producing it, and then I'm not the one deciding, who's going to be on set. But the projects where I can, I would get them on set, and I'll tell you, some of those people turn out to be really, really talented filmmakers down the line. But the difference was between the people who made it and didn't make it was the people that were, yes, they were doing all those mundane tasks like, you know, bringing coffee, but they were also asking questions, watching, learning, absorbing the whole experience, and they very quickly picked up and they learned, you know, how, you know, what it takes to make a, you know, a film, you know, and hopefully a good film. So that's one way I would say is, you know, help other filmmakers. Now, if you're somebody who's already, you know, maybe you consider yourself you're not a beginner, you have some skills, then it's going to be even easier. Let's say you have, you know, maybe you own a really good camera and, you know, you can shoot some pretty cool stuff. But again, filmmaking is just a hobby for you. It's not a job, and you have a day job that supports this hobby. Well, probably the best way to make that switch is to first do probably jobs for free, or maybe some of them will be paid, but paid very low. But don't look at those jobs as they're below you because, oh, I'm experienced, I have this camera. Just look for those opportunities. If you see some filmmakers that are like doing something that, again, maybe they like read the script, you know, the project that you're going to be, the film that you might be working on, or look at what the filmmakers that are, you know, working on this film, what they've done before. And if you see that they have some skills or they have some originality in there, something, but maybe they're lacking a better camera or a camera operator, and you know that you can help them with that, then go and help them. Because then, you know, if you team up with them and you bring your set of skills, then, you know, and you already know that they have an original approach to filmmaking, then the chances of that project becoming really successful and making, you know, basically, you know, making everybody who was attached to that film project successful, you know, that much bigger, because you know that it's filmmaking is a collective process, right? So, you know, and I do that even, like you know, I don't do it because of financial reasons. Sometimes I just do it for fun. Like, I'll literally, you know, I have filmmakers contacting me, and when I really think there's, you know, something about the filmmaker or the script or whatever it is interests me, I'll go and I'll offer my services. I'll just go and work with you know, on that project, because it's just, you know, it's at the end of the day, it makes me really happy when I am part of a project that I'm really proud of, that I think is really good. So definitely go out and collaborate with people, network with people, and helping other filmmakers any way that you can is really good. And that also ties into all the other scripts, like points, like whether maybe you're a good screenwriter, you can go in and offer your services that way. You're a good expert at something, like say again, you know, driving cars or, you know, things like that. There was actually a feature film that I worked on 2 years ago that it was a lot of, you know, people who wanted to kind of, from this town where we were filming in, wanted to you know, participate in it, and it was about vampires, and they wanted to be on camera as vampires, but they weren't actors. So the way that the producers of the film basically did is they kind of told people, well, if you have a skill, something that you can contribute to us, then we'll let you be in the film, and you actually get to be, you know, a vampire. And that's how it was. And I remember, like, one guy was, you know, worked at a junkyard. He brought like these old damaged cars, which worked perfectly for the film, and it was added a lot of production value for no money. Another guy, you know, built something out of steel, like was a welder and built these props for the film, like things like that, right? So, anyways, hopefully you guys, you know, if you have more questions, I can answer them. I want to show some other work here that people submitted. So
can you just quickly jump in to the last point?
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure whether you mentioned it, but yeah, in terms of collaborating. So one problem where filmmakers run into is that, you know, most people start from the that they want, you know, from the idea that they want to be the director, right?
Yeah.
So they want to be the storytellers, and if you start with that, which is cool, and you don't never have to give up that idea that you're going to be director, but at the same time, if you are, sometimes it can not, well, makes it more difficult to collaborate, right? I mean, sometimes this kind of stubbornness might really pay off, you know, like when Sylvester Stallone, he said, no, and I'm going to direct this film, or, you know, nobody's going to make that film, and it worked beautifully for him. But I think for the most part, and, you know, you do want to basically open up yourself up to collaborating, and with where you are,
you want to be
the
flexible,
necessarily. Right? Yeah, you're not the director, so yeah, and contributing any other idea. So because yeah, if you have 10 directors, then, you know, collaborating, they're not going to collaborate. But if they see themselves as more than directors, then they can make sense.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to let, you know, somebody else step in, take charge, and you know, take a smaller role, but because you're still benefiting, right?
Yeah. All right. So the next submission here that I wanted to show is which one is it? It's a music video, I believe. Let's see here. Yeah, music video, and it's the submitted by Artur Kazmerczuk, and his role is the director of photography, editor, colorist. So he pretty much, did most of it. And this is a music video he shot, and this is really cool actually, and interesting thing that I thought I would share with you guys, is that he shot this on the on just the Nikon D5300, and only using one lens, which is the 50mm f1.8, and that's just because that's all he had, he says. And he actually says that behind the scenes, if you were to watch it, that was actually shot on cameras that were a lot more bigger and expensive than the camera that he used as the main camera on this music video. But he also wanted to do it because he said that's what he had. He didn't, basically didn't want to wait around for excuses. He was just like, I'm gonna make this. He wanted to make it very story driven, so they shot it in Finland in 100 meters below the surface and some old mines. And I think it looks visually really, really interesting. So I'll show it to you guys. And also, I just want you to watch it and kind of keep in mind basically what you can achieve, as a filmmaker, even though you might just have one, old camera and one lens. So, anyways, here it is. Let me put this volume up so you guys can hear.
All the pieces in your body rot. I'm just getting started as you drop. I will make soup out of your guts. I've the decency to hold it off when the fire in my eyes gets rough. Make your way into the pot. They'll never stop exploiting the sea stage, so they've gotta go. People like you are just leeches, they'll never stop exploiting the sea stage, so they've gotta go. But if you can't party all of the wasting, you bring the drown. You better fade out.
So I'm gonna let you guys, watch the rest of the video again. We'll provide the link in the description so you guys can watch it. But I think it's especially knowing what he's done. But even if I didn't know, I think it's a beautiful looking video. The kind of lens flares that he was able to get in the shot. I think the color grading is actually really good. And even though he only had one location, I still found it very interesting because of the characters, the way they were made to look, the makeup, like everything I think was spot on. So that's the thing. I mean, me as a filmmaker, I mean, the only, I would say, as a critique, I would say the only thing, and again, that just comes down to preference, is that for me, I would maybe introduce some slightly different lighting sometimes to kind of offset and show this kind of contrast in the colors. Maybe that could have been done in color grading, but again, it's I think it's a great piece of filmmaking, you know, as it stands on its own. So here, let me show you guys the next submission we have. I still have time. Oh, we're actually it's already been an hour now, but we can squeeze this one in, right, Lucas?
What about answering those questions for Arthur? He had some interesting questions, especially one I would want to hear.
Which one?
So he was asking about, you know, so regarding the last video we saw.
Yeah.
You're saying, for example, he did the beat of again. He's trying to tell a story, and you know, he's trying to. I try to combine story type editing with to the beat editing, accents on bass and different drums, drum fills, etc. Do you feel that a super clean, no effects to music would make more sense? Should I have made purely film-like video with no communication with the music? So basically, you know, do you edit to the music, or would it be better in this case to just kind of, you know, tell the story and the music is kind of the background, I guess?
I mean, it's yeah, it's definitely a different approach. I mean, I don't know. To be honest, I would have to see, I guess, the other version to see which one I prefer. The way it's done right now, I think it works. I mean, it works for me. And again, and that's because it's just, I don't think there is wrong or right way of doing it. It's just maybe a better way or in a worse way in terms of your opinion, right? And that again might differ a lot. It's like somebody might have a preference to do this way, and another person might have a preference to doing it another way. That kind of actually brings me to like a project that I worked on. It was a music video, hip hop music video that I did years ago, and the way I had it edited was kind of like, there were some sections that it was done to music, but most of it was just kind of like as a film on its own. It was just done, and music was almost like a background score. But again, the musician, you know, came to me and said, no, I need the music to be the centerpiece. I want people to notice the music. I need the video to be kind of like in the background, like there's some eye candy. But so I need you to, like, literally, he wanted every cut to be done to the beat and things like that, and accentuating what happening in the music. And you know, personally, I didn't agree with him. Also because, you know, especially when I was shooting it already, it's kind of what I imagined. So in the end, the video was really cut. Like my version was very slow and kind of more traditional kind of film editing to showing the story. The end version that we ended up with was very fast, you know, cutting to all the beats and stuff. And it's kind of, because of that, I would say more confusing, the story. But was it more visually, like, you know, like showcasing the music? Yes, it was. I mean, I know that definitely the artist was right in that sense. For me as a filmmaker, I wasn't happy because it didn't show my filmmaking or storytelling skills, I felt, as much. It kind of made the story more confusing. So that's, you know, and again, there's no wrong way. I think it just comes down to your preference, right? And sometimes, you know, at the end of the day, in that case, it was the job that I did for a client, paid job. So the client wanted it that way, I had to deliver it that way, right? So it's just, you know, yeah, I don't think there's wrong or right way. It just really comes down to what it is that you know, whoever has the final say, you know, has a preference for.
Tomek.
Yeah.
Tom. Yeah. Sometimes I'll call my brother Tomek. Actually, that's how we call him in Polish. But yeah, it's getting late. But there's actually one really cool question I would like us to take, and then also wanted to have a question for you, kind of as a wrap up for the whole, you know, topic of today. So maybe we can do those, and then. Sorry guys for the submissions that we didn't get to today. We can get to them next, you know, in the next show. So I think it might be the better way. If you're okay with that, Tom.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, because we have actually like some cool, like a short film and I would want to show.
Yeah, we don't.
But
we don't want to rush through it.
Yeah, it's a little on the longer side, so it's maybe you're right, Lucas. So yeah, again, apologies, but next week, like I said, every week this show goes on. So maybe right now, if there's any questions, Lucas, throw them at me.
One question here I wanted you to handle. So basically, how do you direct actors? We've got somebody here who's going to be directing. He has directing actors with no experience. So that I'm assuming the director does have experience, but do you have any tips on directing non-actors or actors with no experience?
Yeah, I mean, I have tips in just in general, I guess, directing actors, and I don't think it makes a difference whether they're non-actors or not. It's just you really have to see with each actor, it's kind of on a, on a per case basis because every person is different, and you'll see that with people who are professional actors that some actors, again, who have a lot of experience and some who have zero experience, they like to be directed a certain way versus other. And what I mean by that is some of them like to be really hands-on, like they don't need you, like I even had once an actor tell me like, stop with all this bullshit about motivation and what my emotional state is, whatever. I don't care. I'm just here like as a prop pretty much. Tell me where you want me to stand, what do you want me to do more or less. So literally in that case, sometimes you're gonna go and tell an actor, I want you to take 2 steps here, and you kind of have to act it out. And and I definitely don't consider myself a good actor, but I'll try my best to kind of show them what I mean, like when it comes to placement and kind of oh, okay, I want you to look over to this thing, do a little smirk, like things like that, right? But then there's some actors, or just some people, I should say, that hate that. Like they hate when you go, because they feel like they're being then, like they're a puppet when you have your hand stuck up, where, and you're basically puppeting them. So they hate that way. So and again, it does not mean that just because somebody's experienced, that they might be like that, or vice versa. So if you're working with people who have no experience, you just have to kind of approach them, and that's why I think what a very good thing to do is that if you've never worked with a particular person, you've never directed them, is go meet up with them, do a rehearsal if you can before you actually start rolling with the cameras, kind of get a vibe and sense of how is it that they like to be. Like some people just like to be, again, like if you tell them specifically, take 2 steps here, look over to your right, then to the left and smile, then they become so mechanical, they become so aware of their movements that they'll do those movements, but it's going to become very robotic. And that's of course not what you want. So if you're noticing that, then you just pretty much have to tell them, okay, forget about everything I just said. Just basically you're just walking into the room and you're a little confused, and then you notice something over there, and you're like, oh, that's and you kind of give them that motivation, right? Or you tell them emotionally what it is that you want them to do, and then you see how they do it. Now if they don't do that well, not the way that you want, but maybe it's close to the way think, then sometimes it might be like that you like the way the actor behaves, his facial expressions, things like that. It might be just a little bit off. Maybe sometimes for framing, camera framing, you might want him to step a little bit more to this position versus there. Then you just go in and tell them, okay, great. And one thing I would say you can never do, too much of is complimenting actors. Just compliment them, and always, like even if I see a rehearsal that I'm not really quite happy with, I'll always be like, great job, guys. I really like it, but here's what I would want to change, because it starts the conversation, I think, in different, in a different tone versus if you go, this is horrible. I know. I hate it. What the hell were you guys thinking? Like, you just have to be, I guess, as a polite person. So I always try to start positive and then kind of add in my little corrections. And I want to always make it seem like there's as few corrections as possible to make the actor feel like, okay, I already brought in some really cool stuff in here. Well, now we're just kind of fine tuning, right, the work. And sometimes, yeah, it might be very small corrections. I might just be like, oh, just slightly the positioning or the placement. It looks better in camera if you're here versus there. Things like that, or turn your head a little bit more. Now, sometimes it might be, again, completely off. Their emotional state might be completely off, and the character doesn't feel like he's in that moment. So that's when I'll try to, again, make it seem like it's a small change, give them some compliments, but then tell them, like emotionally, this is what you're going through, or this and that. Or if they're an actor that likes to be told specifically how to behave, I'll just tell them, less smile, more smile, like things like that, right? But I would say be positive, compliments, and at the end of the day, see how your actors like to be talked to. When they like to be talked to, almost like they're like a puppet on the set, on a puppet film, or are they, they want to just be told in general terms how they emotionally approach the scene, and then you'll know how to talk to your actors. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah. Here are a few things. Oh, okay. Just a couple of comments, questions. So I'll try to go through here through these, and says that somebody says here, films at short film festival, awesome gateway to the industry. So that's what we talked about. That yeah, it's a great way to show off your talents by making a short film. And also another viewer here says that that Ridley Scott the way he started his career was he was doing commercials, and then he funded his own short film, The Duelist, and that's how he got noticed, and then he got a chance to make a feature film. Also, the question here, sell or option. I think that was a question regarding the scripts, and quickly I'm just going to say it's too big of a, too many variables. We cannot just say, give like a blanket answer, but I think one thing that I would be careful about is if you're working with a producer that doesn't have much of a track record. Sometimes you can still make sense to work with somebody who's really driven, even though they don't have much of a track record. But then you don't want to give them too much of an option. If it's going to be an option, then you don't want to give them a lot of time. Like maybe even you can do something for 6 months. I mean, you get to see really the project is advancing or not, or maybe a year. But I mean, wouldn't go more than a year. Yeah,
it's definitely a complicated question to answer. But yeah, when it comes to options, be very, very careful, because at the end of the day, if you give them such freedom when you option a script to somebody that they can take few months to up to a few years to make it, and then or they can jump out of it, right, which is what an option is, then you could end up just wasting a few years of your life having a really good script that producer just didn't deliver on or didn't make it happen. Where even though it might actually be a really good script, and some other producer might be very happy to actually make this film and to turn it into a reality. So that's the worrisome thing about an option. Now, selling it, I mean, similar things can happen when you sell it, but at least when you sell it, that even if the film never gets made and all that stuff, at the end of the day, if you bargain it for a good, the sale for a good price, then that at least you got paid for your work. That's done and over, and maybe the film also will never get to be made, and your name will never show up on the big screen, but but at least you made some money from it, and then you can invest that money into basically turn it into time, so you can hopefully write another good script. But I would say, with if you're gonna sell it, if you have bargain a really good price for it, if you're gonna option it, maybe even option it sometimes for less money or no money to somebody who you think is really gonna make it happen.
So again, another comment here saying you keep talking about making a film. Nobody technically shoots film. Do you shoot film or shoot on digital media? So I can answer that. The last time we shot something on film was in 2002 when we shot our full feature on the Black Skies. That was the last time we shot on film, right? Correct? Yeah. For our own projects, right?
I mean, I've worked on some another project that was shot on film later on, but it wasn't my film. I was helping out on it.
Yeah. So I mean, we're talking about filmmakers, and it's kind of loosely used terms. And also, there's another people going back to the idea of how do we become pros as filmmakers. Somebody here saying that corporate films seem like a great way to start making money as a filmmaker. Do you want to add anything to that? I mean, I think that's true. I mean, for many people, I think it is a good way to start making, money. But we never went down that route. I mean, we've done some corporate work, but in general, we don't enjoy it. So we haven't done too much of it.
It comes down to what you like doing, right? I mean, I enjoy doing music videos. Also, not all types of music videos. I remember I worked on for a while. I kind of got into doing these hip hop videos, and I got into it because there was a hip hop music video kind of project that came along that I liked. I was like, oh, I wouldn't want to be associated with this. But then I ended up kind of being known as this hip hop guy, the music video director, and I had some some of the people I worked with and some of the experiences on set and stuff. It wasn't very pleasant, and it wasn't very fulfilling too as a filmmaker, because a lot of the hip hop videos that at least I was asked to do was, it was like the artist would just show me like another hip hop video and be like, I wanted my video to look like this. I mean, that's not interesting to me. So, then I kind of, I still do music videos, but now I try to kind of do music videos where they're kind of more, they're not just performance music videos, but kind of more telling a story, like visually especially, because that's what I like doing.
Okay, and now maybe this question I'm going to throw at you, and maybe that would be a good way to wrap up the show. But the idea we talked about how to break into the industry, how to become a pro. Should we be trying to, would you recommend for filmmakers nowadays to try to break into the industry? Is this what what you recommend? Still.
Well, I mean, I guess depends what you what you again mean by industry, and that's what I mean by that is
Hollywood.
yeah,
Hollywood,
exactly. Like
anyway.
if you're talking about that, if you think the filmmaking industry is just making films in Hollywood, then no, I don't think it's, you know, I mean, if that's all you care about, man, I guess go for it. But if you just want to make films, you know, some kind of a film medium and make money from it as a, you know, as a form of living income, you know, then there's many other ways now to do it as a filmmaker. Like years ago, that, you know, Hollywood or a few other places in the world, that was kind of the way. But again, now it's changed a lot, and you know, there's people are like right here that, you know, we're on YouTube, and there's some people making huge money on YouTube making films. And then also there's some that don't have nothing to do with films. You know, they do comedy, like little skits, or do, you know, political shows and things like that. But like I said, you can definitely monetize and make a lot of money here on YouTube just doing that. So that's one way of doing it. Now, some people might always look down, you know, at another filmmaker just because they're on YouTube. So again, it's, you know, because to them that maybe an idea of being in the industry doesn't mean making money and making, like I said, there's some people on YouTube, you know, not me. Sometimes people ask me, I wish I was in that position, but I've known actually some people, or should I say, I met some people that make six figures on YouTube, just doing nothing but YouTube full time. And you know,
and we've seen, sorry, like we've seen their, you know, their ad revenue, like the reporting. So
yeah,
we know
yeah. So we know for sure that, you know, how much
Yeah.
they're making. When that, it's not like, oh, they're just. But anyways, yeah, that's how much they make, and they're very happy with what they're doing. So they're, you know, they don't have any aspirations to work on for some, you know, big Hollywood production and studio and have somebody, a boss, tell them what they can and can't do, because they love the freedom that they have on YouTube, and they can do whatever they want, their own schedule, their own boss, and things like that. So that's the thing, you know. Now to somebody else, that might never be, you know, now they might never consider it as, oh, I made it, I'm in the industry. Even though they might be making a lot of money, they might still look down and be like, oh, you know, I or this filmmaker is just doing something on YouTube. It's just YouTube, right? So again, it comes down to what your idea is of making it in the industry. And I think that's changed a lot. I know even for me, because I was kind of fortunate in the sense that I got to work, you know, fairly quickly on some big budget films, like Hollywood films. You know, got to meet, you know, Hollywood stars and this and that, and I loved it. And I actually started working on animated films, and then later on kind of did special effects on live action films. And again, I got to be on set, and I loved certain aspects of working on those big budget films. Definitely, I love the catering of big budget films. There's a lot of nice, good food and nice chefs and all that stuff. But I'll tell you what, I actually didn't like everything about it. There were some things about the way things are done in Hollywood that I was kind of, yeah, just getting on my nerves. I didn't like it. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just simply saying my preference, because there's some friends of mine who are working still to this day on Hollywood films, and they love it. So it just comes down to your, I guess, what is it that you want out of life. And for me, those things were not, you know, as important. But you know, so that's why eventually I end up kind of slowly transitioning and doing my own things and opening my own production company and things like that. And doing now, I mean, you know, pretty much majority of the films I worked on are smaller films. Some of them, you know, might have $500,000 budget or whatever, or lower. And the stuff that I do, you know, is like really low budget. I mean, I've done a film, one that was just a few $100s budget, which was shot on the Canon 7D, starring my brother Lucas, starring my other little brother Greg, and just me, no assistants, nobody else. One camera, Canon 7D, one lens. I used for, I think I had one other lens that I used for maybe like 2 or 3 shots, but otherwise it was just one lens. I had a tripod, a little, you know, gimbal, that like a Steadicam that I bought for $100, and that was it. I don't think I used any lights, or maybe there was one scene where I had like a little LED light, but that was it. And I made a film, and I'm very proud of that film. Now, could that film have been, you know, made better or look better if it was made for more money? Probably, but it wouldn't be as fun to me. And it was fun because I got to hang out with my brothers. We got to go to locations that I like, you know. It was a fun project. I mean, at least I remember it that way. You, Lucas?
Well, I'll say, yeah, it's difficult to answer and say, like, you know, what's the best way for, you know, whether to try to go Hollywood at all costs or not. But for us, and I think for many people, especially once you get later in age, like, you know, into your 30s and so on, and especially if you start a family, you like the idea of being able to arrange your work around your life. Then,
Exactly.
You know, than being on a call and being away. Let's say, big movie star, you're on your own call, tell you to go to Morocco and spend there, not sightsee, but be there on set for a few months away from your family, who
Yeah,
have to go
that
to,
is a good
your
point.
kids have to go to school and so on. You cannot you can maybe bring your spouse, but you cannot bring your kids. They still have to go to school and so on. So it's difficult. So, I mean, even if you have money, you still it's not like you can do just anything, right?
Yeah, that is actually a very, very good thing is that you brought up is working on those big Hollywood films. Like I said, there's a lot of great things about it, but there's also things that are not so great about it, and like the fact that you're not really in control of your own schedule or where you're filming and stuff. And like I said, and I still take on some of these, even like indie films that are maybe not as big budget, but it's hard, and it's for me it's like a big decision, and it's a decision that usually I go and I kind of make with my wife, because as much as I sometimes would want to work on a certain film, I also don't want to be away from my family, right? So it's because it is, like I said, when you commit to some of those projects, especially Hollywood, big productions where they're paying you a lot of money, they're not going to hear any excuses. On an indie production, they might sometimes push them to be like, oh, can you move the schedule a little bit or things like that. But on a big Hollywood film, they're like, okay, here's the job, you want it, not, we'll find somebody else who will take your job. And so that sometimes might mean that you're going to be away from home for 2 or 3 months. And sometimes, it's also just physically very hard, like in locations or weather that you really don't enjoy, but you're going to have to do it. So again, it just, comes down to what you like. But if you really just want to be associated with big Hollywood films, I mean, yeah, that's the only way is to try to make it in Hollywood. But if you want to just be a filmmaker, and not only that, but making films that you care about, nobody's there telling you, oh, yeah, we like the story, we don't like the story, anything. You want to have full control, because again, you're not going to get that in Hollywood, and it's understandable. It's just simply, there's other people who are putting out big money behind your project, so they want to have it done their way too. But if you're working on a film that's self-financed, for example, or like has a minor investment, or maybe you've crowdsourced, through your fan base and stuff, then you can definitely, you can have a lot more fun, I think, with it, a lot more control, but you're going to be giving up other things. So really, I would say, think about really what's more important to you in your life and your career, and then you'll know, is Hollywood the only way to go, right? Yeah. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoy this show. Once again, is me, my brother here. I don't know if we missed any questions, Lucas.
There's still some questions, but we could be here for a long, long time, and I think we'll have to, yeah.
So hold off your questions,
but
guys.
I think we covered. I think we covered all the major points.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hold off with your questions till next time. Again, next week, noon, Eastern time, US. Join us again for the show. And like I said, we're doing it weekly, and always hopefully, talking about some interesting topics. Doing sometimes some of it is like, if you watch some of the past shows, doing live color grading tutorials. We're actually going to be doing live lighting tutorials on the show. So a lot of more cool stuff to come. So make sure you check it out and tell your friends or anybody else who you think might be interested in a filmmaking show like the one that we do here. Spread the word, and as always, in the meantime, check out our other videos. Usually we have another video coming out every Wednesday, whether it's a tutorial, gear review, things like that. So check that out also. And as always, if you want to stay up to date with everything that we're doing, go to my website, tomantosfilms.com, and subscribe to the newsletter that we have there. You can get updates when there is something interesting, or like a little newsletter when we have some other tips or things that we want to share with you guys that we don't necessarily going to make a video about. But hopefully this video did help you with the 5 ways of becoming a pro filmmaker, kind of how to jumpstart your career. If you guys have any other ideas of how to do it, and I know there are many others, then share them in the comments below so other people can also get help that way. Let them know if you are in the industry, share again your story of how you jumpstart your career, and that's it for today. Don't forget to join us, like I said, next week. Bye, guys.
Thank you guys.